He was worth billions, yet he still couldn't find a wife. To fulfill his mother's last wish, he brought home a girl with a mental disorder. He pushed her onto the bed, but only to rest his head on her arm and sleep. Who would have thought the cold and powerful CEO was actually a clingy puppy in private? He even threw his leg right over the girl's body. Holding her close, he complained about his scumbag father. Maybe thinking she was too out of it to understand, he let his guard down and spoke his heart. What he didn't know was that the girl was only pretending to be clueless. Suddenly, he sat up, loosening his hold. But as his eyes dropped, they landed on the curves rising and falling in front of him. His body reacted instantly. Damn it. How could he be aroused by a lunatic? Panicked, he rushed out of the room to cool off. Chu Mian rubbed her nose, slipped quietly off the bed and tiptoed after him. Lifting his arms, Li Tiange slipped on his suit jacket, then glanced at Meng Shu. Find me a woman. Meng Shu froze. What kind of woman? Li Tiange gave her a look as if she were an idiot. Adult willing. Got it. Soon 2 servants arrived, but their only job was to keep an eye on Chu Mian. Once Li Tian K left, Chu Mian quietly began plotting her escape. She bounced around the room on purpose, slowly lowering the maid's guard, though one of them still kept a close watch. Right under the woman's nose, she swiftly swiped a bottle of sleeping pills. Then she slipped into the kitchen and poured the drug into a nearby water bottle. An hour later, Chu Mian walked out of the room, stretching hard with a satisfied sigh. This was what freedom tasted like. She arrived at the Chu family estate, the very place where her nightmares began. Back then, her adoptive father had tossed her onto a deserted island like she was trash. Now she had returned, and it was time for them to pay the price. She climbed over the wall into the yard, then slipped through the balcony into what used to be her room. But to her disgust, the room had been turned into a dog kennel. Running her fingers along the wall, she pressed lightly and a brick suddenly popped open. Inside was a stash of money she had hidden long ago, and a single button, the only thing left in her swaddling clothes when she'd been abandoned. She clutched the wooden box to her chest, a sly glint flashing in her eyes. Since she'd come all this way, she had to leave behind a little gift. That night, the Chu family's precious daughter, Chu Xing, returned home. Even though she already had a boyfriend, she still wanted to get close to the richest man, Li Tian K. Her mother, Feng Shui, gently warned her that playing both sides would end badly. But Chu Xing only shot her a disdainful glare before turning and storming upstairs. Moments later, Chu Xing collapsed to the floor in terror, her trembling hand pointing toward the vanity. The mirror was fogged over, and across its misted surface appeared a string of English words. Feng Shui's first thought was Chu Mian. This had once been her room. But at the mention of Chu Mian's name, Chu Xing's fear vanished. It had been 3 years. She should have rotted away in the slums by now. Her father, Chu Jingming, gave a cold snort. Alive, she was worthless. Dead, all she can do is petty tricks. Nothing to be afraid of. Chu Xing sneered, suggesting, why not invite a master to set up a formation and crush that bitch's soul down into the 18th level of hell? Feng Shui frowned deeply, but Chu Jingming clearly agreed. A smug light gleamed in Chu Xing's eyes. Chu Mian, whether you live or die, you'll always be beneath me. That day, Chu Xing was at a street stall, munching on skewers. A silver-haired man walked up to hit on her. Chu Mian pulled off her disposable gloves and replied coolly, seriously, you mangy dog. The silver-haired man laid a hand on her shoulder, saying he wanted to get to know her better. She glanced coldly at that greasy hand. In a flash, she twisted his wrist, slammed it onto the table and drove a skewer straight through the back of his hand. The man howled in agony, mercy, goddess. I'll do anything you want. Chu Mian withdrew the skewer, her mind flashing back to when her father abandoned her on that island. Her household registration had long been erased. The only proof of her identity left was a high school diploma. Conveniently, this silver-haired man was a forger. She ordered him to make her a new ID, under the name Xie Xianghua. The rest she didn't care. Just then, a television outside the food stall caught her eye. On the screen, the sweet angelic image of Chu Xing was exposed as a lie. She had actually hired a so-called shaman to suppress her dead sister's soul. Chu Mian sneered. What a performance. As she rose to leave, fate brought her face to face with the domineering Xiao Li Tian K, who had brought another woman to enjoy some street food. Security was already clearing the crowd. Since Chu Mian had pretended to be mentally unstable in front of Tian K before, and now she had sneaked out again. To avoid being recognized, she quickly grabbed a hat and apron from the food stall and put them on. With her head lowered, she followed the flow of people leaving the cleared street, only to be stopped by the CEO's assistant, Meng Shu, who mistook her for a vendor. She froze on the spot. Glancing down, she saw the bold words Northern Barbecue printed across her chest and had no choice but to shuffle back to the stall. Unfortunately, Tian K and the woman with him had taken a seat right at her stall. The woman leaned forward, her voice deliberately soft and syrupy. The sound made Chu Mian's scalp tingle with goosebumps, especially as she noticed the woman's leg teasing Tian K under the table. Meng Shu suddenly leaned closer and urged, "Serve what's ready first." Chu Mian sighed in exasperation, tossed random seasonings over the skewers, and threw the meat onto a plate. Keeping her head down, she carried the plate to the table, praying silently, "Don't recognize me, don't recognize me." Setting it down, she quickly retreated. Tian K suddenly called out to her, his gaze lingering on her as the corner of his lips curved into a knowing smile. He had clearly recognized her, but chose not to expose her. At that moment, the woman in the red dress reached out with delicate fingers, stroking his cheek in a teasing gesture. Tian K shot to his feet, seizing her wrist. With one swift motion, he flipped her skirt, revealing a gun holster strapped to her thigh. In the blink of an eye, the weapon was in his hand and the woman stumbled to the ground. With an expression of calm authority, Tian K fired a shot. Even Meng Shu was stunned. He hadn't expected the woman he arranged to be such a threat. The night market erupted in chaos as vendors fled in panic. Yet Chu Mian remained standing unerringly calm, something that immediately drew Tian's attention. Slowly, he pressed the muzzle of the gun against her forehead. "For a street vendor, you've got guts." Chu Mian lowered her voice, rasping out flattery to save face. Tian K chuckled darkly, then tossed the gun to Meng Shu with a command, "We're heading to Chong Garden next." Chu Mian's chest tightened. She realized she might have been exposed, but she had no time to worry. She had to make it back to her room before Tian K returned home. If her cover was blown, her father and sister would surely retaliate. Watching his car closely, she seized the moment and slipped silently into the trunk when no one was looking. But Tian K had seen everything. He deliberately chose to sit in the very car Chu Mian had slipped into. His assistant asked what kind of woman he preferred and if he should find another one. Knowing full well Chu Mian was hiding in the trunk, Tian K purposely replied, "Yes. Someone with mental problems." Chu Mian's eyes flew wide open inside the trunk. What kind of twisted fetish is this? Then he added, "I think that woman from Chong Garden would do just fine." Chu Mian's heart pounded. What? Wasn't I supposed to be his dead sister's replacement? Even Meng Shu, sitting in the car, was startled by his words. But before she could react, Tian K let out a low, meaningful chuckle. "Tell me, should I just take her right now?" Curled up in the trunk, Chu Mian didn't dare move. Tian K, for heaven's sake, act like a human being. Don't be this much of a pervert. She carefully counted the driving time, then seized her chance, slipping out of the trunk and vaulting over the fence to rush back to her room. What she didn't realize was that Tian K had seen it all. He had even stalled on purpose, chatting idly with the maids to give her enough time. Only when he judged the timing right did he finally push open Chu Mian's bedroom door. There she was, lying quietly on the bed. Tian K stepped closer, and she really was asleep. He pinched Chu Mian's delicate nose, cutting off her breath until she blinked awake, bleary-eyed. Tian K smirked wickedly. "Awake? Then get up and have dinner with me." Chu Mian sat up, keeping up her act of being dazed. But within seconds, her arm was yanked forward. Chu Mian froze. What the hell is this man up to? The next thing she knew, she was slung upside down over his shoulder, carried out like a sack. A sharp smack landed on her round, perky backside. Tian's voice dripped with dark amusement. "When a woman squirms on a man's body, that's an invitation. I don't care if you're crazy or not. This man is poison." Chu Mian cursed him over and over in her head. Sitting across from her, Tian K fixed his deep, unreadable gaze on her. Chu Mian kept her head down, looking obedient. But the next second, she stuffed food into her mouth in huge bites. "Didn't you say you like crazy women? Let's see how much you like this." Tian K stared at her, his eyes glinting with amusement. Adorable. Chu Mian broke character, spraying a mouthful of rice in shock. A maid rushed forward to replace his tableware, but he waved her off. No need. He calmly wiped his hands. What does she like to eat? He asked. The maid stood stiffly, answering with caution, Miss isn't picky with food. She eats whatever is served. Tian K arched a brow, his tone laced with meaning. Doesn't she dislike barbecue? Chu Mian's scalp tingled. Why bring up barbecue out of nowhere? Did he recognize me at the night market? Rising slowly from his chair, Tian K took steady steps toward her. Standing behind her, he lifted her chin with one hand, leaned close to her ear and murmured, Little thing, if you eat what you shouldn't, the consequences will be severe. Chu Mian jolted, certain now he must have recognized me. Just then Meng Shu interjected, Presidently, she doesn't understand that I'll remind the maids to watch her diet. Tian K only chuckled. I said that to a lunatic, how could she possibly understand? Chu Mian's nerves tightened. She couldn't read him at all, unsure whether he had truly recognized her or was simply toying with her. Soon after, he ordered Meng Shu to have her bracelet remade into a bangle. Meng Shu was full of questions but didn't dare ask. She only whispered, Presidently, will you be staying here tonight? When his firm answer came, Chu Mian's heart lurched. Her mind spun with panic and restless thoughts. Then a phone call came through. Li Tiang's expression shifted, and he left in a hurry. Watching his back disappear, Chu Mian finally let out a long, shaky breath of relief. He was barely born when tragedy struck. His mother died in childbirth. His father not only married her best friend but even threw out his 10-year-old sister and the newborn boy together. Hearing the maid recount his past, Chu Mian felt a pang of emotion. Remembering Li Tiang's childish moments, her heart twisted uncomfortably. Meanwhile, Chu Mian had secretly installed surveillance in the Chu household. Every move they made was under her watch. She sneered. The Chu family's blind faith in superstition made them truly believe her ghost had returned. She then triggered a pre-recorded synthetic voice and dialed every media outlet, reporting the Chu family for setting up a sinister 100 curses ghost binding formation. Elsewhere, Tian K visited his father's residence, only to hear the man shamelessly ask for money to spend on women. Li Tiang's gaze turned dark, his fury so sharp he nearly crippled him on the spot. Just then Meng Shu handed over a dossier, information about Chu Mian. Li Tiang's eyes deepened. She was not an orphan. Indeed, years ago, Chu Jingming had bribed someone to abandon her on a deserted island. Li Tiang's lips curved into a faint, dangerous smile. Interesting. Keep digging. Meng Shu added that today's trending news was all about the Chu family, exposed for setting up ghostly formations. Snatching the phone, Li Tian growled, Chu Mian is mine. No one else dares to lay a hand on her. By the next morning, Chu Xing was on the verge of madness. Her phone was flooded with vicious comments. Twisting her beautiful face in rage, she hurled it onto the bed. Storming downstairs, she shouted, Dad, what the hell is going on? Chu Jingming sat grim-faced in the living room. He had already spent money to suppress the scandal, yet the heat only grew. He decided Chu Xing should hold a press conference and dump all the blame on the shaman. But Chu Xing hesitated. Her sights were set on Tian K now, and she couldn't afford her private life to spiral into chaos. Chu Jingming slammed his palm on the table. If you could get Tian K to testify for you, I wouldn't be worried. But does he even spare you a glance now? Suddenly, a thought struck him. You haven't broken up with Feng Xinjun, have you? Chu Xing shook her head. Of course not. Feng Xinjun is a decent backup. Why would I throw him away so easily? Her sights were set on Tian K. To be forced into marrying Feng Xinjun because of a scandal. That was something she could never accept. A man worth billions yet reduced to a mere fallback, all because his girlfriend could act too well. And the clueless Feng Xinjun still adored her wholeheartedly. He didn't even realize that every embrace from her was filled with disgust. Just then she caught sight of her sister. The one thought dead for 3 years. To make things worse, Feng Xinjun had once pursued Chu Mian like a madman. In Chu Xing's mind, even as a backup, he could only ever belong to her. Chu Xing deliberately knocked over her coffee, spilling it all over Feng Xinjun, seizing the chance to search for her sister's figure. Suddenly, a hand clamped down on her shoulder. She turned instinctively and came face to face with Chu Mian. She screamed, collapsing to the ground, then snarled viciously, You're alive. Chu Mian feigned indifference, saying coldly, "Miss, you must have mistaken me for someone else." Chu Xing jabbed a finger at her. Still denying it, "The electronic shackle on your wrist is proof." Chu Mian raised her wrist, revealing only a jade bangle, thanks to Tian K, who had reshaped the lock into jewelry. Just then Feng Shinjun stepped out of the restroom, his eyes falling on Chu Mian. He froze, rooted to the spot. Feng Shinjun snapped out of his shock, clutching Chu Mian's hand with excitement. "Where have you been these past 3 years? I've been searching everywhere for you." Chu Mian quickly pulled her hand back, her tone cold. "You've really got the wrong person." Meanwhile, Chu Xing, unwilling to let go, secretly sent a message to her father. She then latched onto Feng Shinjuan's arm, using the excuse of inviting Chu Mian for coffee to keep her from leaving. Even now, she didn't forget to flaunt her charms, pressing her chest deliberately against his arm. Chu Mian found the sight unbearable. She pulled out her ID and said flatly, "You two really have mistaken me for someone else." But Chu Xing refused to believe it, reaching out to snatch the document. Chu Mian instantly pulled back, eyes sharp. "What do you think you're doing?" Chu Xing rushed to explain, "You just look far too much like my dead sister." Feng Shinjun stepped in to smooth things over, offering his business card. "Sorry, my girlfriend got carried away." Chu Mian took the card and gave it a quick glance, her lips curling. Didn't she claim she had no boyfriend? So what is this? Are they both playing games? Chu Xing glared at her, furious. "Don't talk nonsense." Chu Mian ignored her and turned to leave. But as she moved, a calculating gleam flashed in Chu Xing's eyes. She snatched up a steaming cup of coffee and flung it straight at her. With a swift motion, Chu Mian raised her hand, deflecting it cleanly. The coffee splashed back the way it had come. Scalded by the coffee, Chu Xing jumped up on the spot, glaring furiously at Chu Mian. "You're Chu Mian. Admit it." Chu Mian refused to acknowledge the lunatic, turning to leave. But Chu Xing wouldn't give up, desperately reaching to grab her shoulder. With the slightest twist of her body, Chu Mian let her grasp air. Chu Xing lost her balance and went tumbling down the escalator. Chu Mian stood innocently where she was, turning to Feng Shinjun. "I didn't even touch her. Your girlfriend isn't trying to pin this on me, is she? Maybe you should take her to the hospital." She added carelessly, "If you're sending her, that's your business. I didn't push her." As she turned to leave, Feng Shinjun couldn't stop himself. He called after her and invited her to Chu Xing's upcoming birthday banquet. Chu Mian didn't respond. She simply waved goodbye without looking back. Still on the ground, Chu Xing was approached by the silver-haired man. Learning that he knew Chu Mian too, and had even forged the ID under the name Xie Xianghua, she became even more certain this was her sister. Feng Shinjun carried the injured Chu Xing to his car, frowning. "What on earth is wrong with you today?" Chu Xing put on a pitiful face, whispering, "I just miss Chu Mian too much. And I know you miss her as well. Why don't you go back and look for her?" Feng Shinjuan's chest tightened at her words. He pulled her into his arms more firmly. "You're hurt like this. How could I leave you?" Leaning against him, Chu Xing's eyes glimmered with malice. Meanwhile, Chu Mian was already plotting her escape. That if she stayed any longer, she might lose far more than she could afford. But fate never spares her. Today, dressed in a pure white gown, Chu Mian instantly caught Li Tiang's special attention. Even while playing games, he insisted on holding her in his arms, seating her squarely on his lap. Seriously, sitting on his thigh, what is this? She thought, but knowing she'd be leaving soon, she reluctantly let him hold her a little longer. Yet Li Tian K seemed to read her mind, hinting darkly that if she dared to run, he'd break her legs. Terrified by his dominance, Chu Mian's heart pounded wildly. She abandoned her escape plan for now. But she hadn't forgotten her revenge. And tonight was the perfect stage, Chu Xing's birthday banquet. Chu Mian decided it was time to stir chaos. The moment Chu Xing saw her walk in, hatred burned in her chest. But her boyfriend, Feng Shinjun, oblivious, leaned close and asked if she was enjoying herself. Chu Xing's smile nearly cracked, forcing out a perfunctory reply before quickly sending Feng Shinjun away on an excuse. She plotted to use her friend Qian Nannan to cause trouble. Qian hesitated, uneasy with the idea, but Chu Xing tempted her with a promise of 200,000 yuan. Qian Nannan wasted no time. Striding up to Chu Mian, she demanded to see her invitation. Chu Mian shook her head calmly. I came with Miss Chu's boyfriend that I don't have an invitation. But Qian Nan raised her chin arrogantly, insisting she was just here to freeload and scam a free meal. Chu Mian took a bite of her pastry, her tone cool. And what makes you so sure I'm here freeloading? Qian Nan was left speechless and could only drag her to face Chu Xing directly. Holding a glass of champagne, Chu Xing feigned innocence. I don't know her, she said sweetly, then added with mock kindness. If she's really struggling, let her pack some food to take home. But that felt far too lenient for Chu Mian. Slipping her earrings into her pocket, she pretended they'd gone missing and urged everyone to help her search. Bought off with benefits, Qian Nan pointed the finger immediately. She stole them, she declared, demanding Chu Mian strip on the spot for inspection. She even boasted that if nothing was found, Chu Mian should kneel and apologize. Chu Mian shot Chu Xing a sharp glance. And what about you? Chu Xing forced a smile. If nothing's found, I'll apologize to you. Chu Mian's lips curled coldly. No, you'll kneel. After a tense pause, Chu Xing had no choice but to agree. Without hesitation, Chu Mian tugged down her zipper, revealing a cream-colored fitted gown underneath. Under the light, her figure stunned the entire crowd. Lifting her chin, she fixed her gaze on Qian Nan. Weren't you going to search me? Knowing full well a tight dress couldn't hide anything, Qian was struck dumb on the spot. But Chu Xing's eyes locked onto the accessory at Chu Mian's wrist. To her, that was the electronic shackle that if she exposed it here, she could send Chu Mian straight back to the island to rot. She lunged forward, tearing at the silk ribbon that concealed it, only to reveal nothing more than an ordinary jade bangle. Chu Mian's hand lashed out, striking Chu Xing hard across the face. Chu Xing's eyes flickered, instantly welling with tears. She looked around pitifully, her expression full of grievance. That delicate act stirred the hearts of several wealthy heirs, who quickly stepped forward to scold Chu Mian. From upstairs, Tian K, who was in a meeting, witnessed the entire scene. Meng Shu finally realized Chu Mian had been pretending all along and asked if they should step in. But Tian K waved it off. No, I want to see how this little thing handles it herself. To their surprise, Chu Mian showed no fear. She declared coldly, the first one to lay a hand on me will vanish from this world. Tian K had assumed she would invoke his name as her shield, and he even told Meng Shu to prepare to testify for her. Yet instead, Chu Mian dropped another name, the Xia family, one of the most powerful clans in the country. The crowd erupted in murmurs, whispering about her identity. Even Tian K raised a brow in curiosity. The Xia family had no daughter in this generation. A sour note struck him. Was she lying? And worse, why wasn't she thinking of him? Still, he gave the order for Meng Shu to keep a close watch on her. Don't let her get hurt. Chu Xing, however, stubbornly refused to believe she had ties to the Xia family. She summoned the hotel manager and sneered. Do you know the price of impersonating a Xia heir? Chu Mian remained composed. You're right, I'm not a Xia heir, but I am Xia Eoran's savior. At the mention of Xia Eoran, the hotel manager froze. Outsiders couldn't possibly know the true head of the Xia family by name. To be safe, he immediately made a call to verify. 10 minutes later, the manager returned with utmost respect, personally inviting Chu Mian to speak with Xia Eoran on the phone. It turned out that back on the deserted island, she had once saved Xia Eoran, who had been cast into the sea by his own uncles. With her help and a satellite phone, he had managed to reconnect with his loyalists and reclaim his place in the Xia family. Over the line, Xia Eoran first congratulated her on escaping the island, then solemnly apologized. She had saved him, yet he had failed to rescue her in return. But Chu Mian simply replied, everyone has their own reasons. I don't blame you. Xia Eoran insisted he could come fetch her, offering her anything she desired. Chu Mian did want to leave, but now she had become entangled with Tian K. The moment Xia Eoran heard Tian's name, he fell silent before exclaiming in shock. Chu Mian knew full well. The Xia family might be powerful, but compared to Tian K, they still fell short. For now, she had to rely on her own wits. Shaking her head, she ended the call and followed the hotel manager back to the hall. Qian Nan's heart pounded as she prayed silently. Please don't let her really be the Xia family's benefactor. Chu Xing, however, remained unfazed. To her, 3 years on a deserted island meant Chu Mian could never have met Xia Eoran. Yet in the next instant, Chu Mian boldly sat down in Chu Xing's seat. Qian Nan, wiser than her friend, had already dropped to her knees, begging for forgiveness. Chu Xing, still refusing to believe it, pointed at her and spat, "Bitch?" The hotel manager winced, sweating nervously. This woman is as foolish as a mole digging its own grave. At that moment, Chu Jingming arrived. Seeing Chu Mian alive, shock flickered across his face before he snarled, "So this wretch still lives. Her life really is too hard to snuff out." Chu Xing clung to him like a lifeline. "Dad, this bitch is making me kneel." The words had barely left her mouth when the hotel manager slapped her across the face. "How dare you insult the benefactor of the Xie family's patriarch?" Chu Jingming's face darkened. Though furious at seeing his daughter struck, he didn't dare retaliate. The Xie family was not one he could provoke, but he was forced to swallow his pride and apologize to Chu Mian himself. Then, gritting his teeth, he ordered Chu Xing to do the same. "Dad, you want me to apologize to that bitch?" she shrieked. Before she could say more, Chu Jingming slapped her down again, nearly knocking her senseless. "Idiot! You can't even see the situation you're in." Slapped by her father, Chu Xing finally, reluctantly, shuffled to Chu Mian's side and muttered a weak, "Sorry." But Chu Mian wasn't about to let her off so easily. "On your knees," she demanded coldly. Under the looming shadow of the Xie family, Chu Xing had no choice but to kneel. With a smirk, Chu Mian lifted her chin with the tip of her shoe. Then, seizing her ear, she whispered darkly, "Since it's your birthday, Miss Chu, why don't I feed you some cake?" Without warning, she smashed the entire cake into Chu Xing's face. "Remember this, it's all your own doing." Chu Xing's arrogance shattered instantly, leaving her sobbing and begging for forgiveness. Deciding the spectacle had gone far enough, Chu Mian straightened her gown and strode away. Shortly after, Tian K also moved to leave, only to run into his rival Feng Shenjun. Tian's expression turned icy. Stepping into the elevator, he planted himself squarely in the middle and declared arrogantly, "Full." One of Feng Shenjun's lackeys, a blonde punk, started to complain, but Feng quickly threw out an arm to silence him. And when the blonde finally realized who Tian K truly was, he nearly pissed himself in terror. Chu Mian wandered into a football field, sipping wheat juice until she was drunk out of her mind. She didn't even notice when Tian K sat beside her with bleary eyes. She looked at him and slurred, "Who are you?" "They say drunken words are honest ones." Taking advantage, Tian K asked, "Do you have any unclear ties with Feng Shenjun?" "Feng? Who? Don't know him," she mumbled. Satisfied, Tian K grabbed her wrist and pressed his lips against hers. The kiss was long, sweet, and utterly addictive. Chu Mian finally pushed him away, neck sore from the embrace. Panting, she muttered, "You kissed me. Shouldn't you at least wish me happy birthday?" With a snap of his fingers, Tian K lit up the sky. Fireworks burst into dazzling colors, spelling out, "Happy birthday, Chu Mian." Chu Mian, tipsy and dazed, stared up at the fireworks. What a coincidence. Someone out there has the same name as me, even the same birthday. Watching her silly expression, Tian K murmured, "As long as you stay by my side, I'll give you anything you want." But Chu Mian, lost in her drunken rambling, continued lamenting her cruel fate. One thing led to another, and the two ended up falling asleep together. The next morning, Chu Mian woke with a start. She scrambled to flee the scene of the crime, only to be pinned down by Tian K. He leaned in again, sealing her protest with another domineering kiss. Chu Mian was still racking her brain for a way to cover up last night's events, while Tian K held her as if nothing had happened. He knew all too well. If he exposed her identity, she would only run from him. To shift blame, Tian K laid all responsibility on the maids. But Chu Mian couldn't bear to see them punished. She rushed to shield the two women, muttering in a dazed, childlike voice, "No hitting, no hitting." Watching this, Meng Shu almost believed her act, if he hadn't already known she was faking it. Tian K lowered his head, tapping his cheek with a finger. "Do you know how to beg me properly?" he asked with teasing menace. "Beg your grandpa." Chu Mian clenched her fists at her side, silently grinding her teeth. Still, she tilted her head and planted a quick peck on his face. Tian K pinched her chin, smiling. "Good girl. For your sake, I'll let them go today." Meng Shu stood frozen in disbelief. No wonder his boss refused to expose her. Turns out this was one of Tian's special tastes. Soon after, Tian K announced he would take her to the upcoming painting competition. Chu Mian, however, had no desire to spend more time with him. Yet for the sake of her revenge, she had to participate. Winning the prize money was her only chance of breaking free from his grip. And right now, refusal wasn't an option. Dressed in matching outfits, the two of them looked like they were attending a wedding. In the car, Tian K noticed Chu Mian deliberately keeping her distance. Without warning, he swung open the car door on her side. Startled, Chu Mian instinctively threw herself into his arms. Smirking at his success, Tian K couldn't resist stealing another taste of her lips. Chu Mian longed to come clean and fight him head-on, but for the sake of her revenge plan, she could only keep up the act, letting him have his way. Meanwhile, her sister Chu Xing heard about this and decided to seize the chance to get close to Tian K. Though she already had a boyfriend, all she cared about was marrying into wealth, yet she couldn't paint to save her life. Their father, Chu Jingming, had already devised a scheme that he paid 5 million to buy off last year's champion, having him create a painting under Chu Xing's name. To him, as long as his daughter could secure Tian K, a mere 5 million was nothing. On the day of the competition, father and daughter arrived, smiling for the cameras and basking in interviews, with no shame at all for trampling on the art. But the moment Tian K appeared with his companion, their spotlight was stolen. They were reduced from stars to mere background extras. Seeing Tian K with another woman at his side shattered Chu Xing's confidence on the spot. Tian K escorted Chu Mian to the audience seats. With urgent matters to attend to, he told her to wait there for him. Before leaving, he leaned close and said domineeringly, "Relax. Even if you lose control and tear this place apart, I'll cover for you." Arrogant as it was, the feeling of having someone to back her up warmed Chu Mian's heart. On his way out, he ran into Chu Xing, who tried to strike up a conversation. Tian brushed past her without so much as a glance. The snub left Chu Xing seething, though powerless. Soon after, Chu Jingming and Chu Xing spotted Chu Mian sitting alone in the audience and headed straight toward her. True to form, Chu Xing sneered, "A country bumpkin like you thinks she belongs at an art exhibition?" Chu Jingming, however, put on the face of a caring father. "We raised you for 18 years, I don't expect anything in return. Just hope you'll come home and visit when you can." Chu Mian's lips curled in scorn. "When you abandoned me on that island like trash, where was this so-called fatherly love?" As the exhibition began, the organizers asked everyone to return to their seats. Before leaving, Chu Jingming added, "Don't leave after the competition. Let's sit down and talk as father and daughter." But in his heart he was scheming. He had to catch her and get to the bottom of everything. When Chu Xing noticed Chu Mian's dress, a fleeting thought struck her. Could she be Tian's companion? But the idea seemed too absurd and she quickly dismissed it. As expected, the painting Chu Xing had purchased with money was announced as one of the winners. Who would have thought behind her harmless facade lay such a calculating mind? Yet the painting failed to catch Tian's attention. Instead, another winning piece left him utterly entranced. He gripped Chu Mian's hand so tightly in his excitement that he didn't even notice her wince in pain. To him, the painting was more than art, it was memory. His sister had perished in a setting just like the one captured on that canvas. To everyone's astonishment, the artist behind that painting turned out to be none other than Chu Mian. The judges found themselves unable to choose between the two works. Thus, the host invited both winners on stage to share their creative journeys. Enduring the pain, Chu Mian slipped away to the restroom, changing into plain clothes and disguising herself as a rustic village girl. Chu Xing went first. Smiling at the host's praise, she shamelessly declared that painting was just a hobby for her. In her vanity, she assumed Tian's gaze was on her, but in truth his eyes never left the painting. When Chu Mian took the stage in her rustic disguise, Chu Xing sneered inwardly, looking down on her completely. Asked about their inspirations, Chu Xing rattled off a string of meaningless nonsense, leaving the crowd bored. Chu Mian, in contrast, gave a simple two-word answer: win prizes. The audience gasped, utterly stunned. Chu Xing burst out laughing, certain the trophy was already hers. But then someone exclaimed, the style of Chu Mian's painting was strikingly similar to that of Master Fong Lao. In truth, during her years stranded on the island, she had met Fong Lao and been forced to paint under his tutelage for 3 long years. When Chu Mian calmly admitted she had studied under Fong Lao, the hall erupted. The crowd jeered at Chu Xing, telling her to step down before embarrassing herself further. The host promptly declared Chu Mian the winner of the grand prize. Chu Xing's work, though inferior, had cost 5 million to procure. A rich buyer reluctantly paid 2 million for it. Chu Mian's painting, however, soared from 8 million all the way to 20 million. And then, Tian K raised his hand and coolly announced, 100 million. The venue exploded in uproar. Chu Xing was dumbfounded. How could some dumpy village girl sell a painting for that much while I'm left losing 3 million? Since Chu Mian refused to show her real face, the host suggested verifying her identity backstage. But Chu Mian remembered what Xiaoran had told her before the competition, that Chu Xing's painting was bought. Seizing the chance, she decided to strike back at the Chu family. She spoke up, "What if someone simply bought a painting to claim the glory?" Chu Xing froze, panic surging through her. To uphold the credibility of the Obsidian Award, the host proposed a live demonstration, each contestant painting on the spot. Realizing she was cornered, Chu Xing quickly claimed she needed the restroom. She rushed to her father for help, but to her horror, Chu Jingming snapped her hand without hesitation, thinking the injury could excuse her from painting and preserve the family's name. Yet Chu Mian had already prepared her trump card. As the award ceremony proceeded, the big screen suddenly lit up with footage, showing Chu Xing buying the painting. Outrage erupted. The Chu family, once polished and glamorous, was now branded shameless frauds. The organizers immediately declared they would launch a full investigation and hold the guilty accountable. With no way out, Chu Xing feigned a headache and clung to her father, fleeing the hall in disgrace. Seizing the chaos, Chu Mian slipped into the men's restroom, changed back into her original gown, then climbed through to the women's side. A smooth, practiced escape. She emerged just as Tian K was about to kick the door down, swinging it open at the last second. He scooped her up effortlessly, smirking. "Little thing, squatting for so long, legs numb?" Then out of nowhere he began recounting his past. After his mother's death, he and his sister were thrown out by their father, treated like filth by the maids, beaten and humiliated daily. In the end, his sister snapped. She slaughtered every servant who tormented them, then turned the blade on herself, collapsing in the snow. From that day forward, no one dared trample him again. Anyone in his way he erased, even his own father. Chu Mian had no idea why Tian K was telling her this. All she felt was danger. The more she knew, the more perilous it became. Tilting her chin upward, Tian's voice turned cold and possessive. "Welcome to my world, little thing, that there's only one rule, you're mine." Chu Mian was left utterly baffled by his words, unable to grasp what he meant. All she could focus on was her revenge. The next morning, she rushed to her computer, eager to see media reports on Chu Jingming and Chu Xing's scandal over buying artwork. Instead, she was stunned. Photos had surfaced of Chu Xing standing beside Tian K, sparking rumors of a close relationship. The press, intimidated, dared not publish the scandal. Fury burned in Chu Mian's chest. To her, Tian K was nothing but the greatest obstacle on her path to revenge. Chu Mian came up with a plan. She secretly altered Tian's schedule. Since Chu Xing was desperate to get close to him, she'd grant her wish by sending her to his private villa. But fate played a cruel trick. Chu Mian herself was also taken to the villa. Before leaving, the maids warned her, "Don't make the young master angry." Their fearful tone made her uneasy. Upon arrival, she finally understood. The villa wasn't just Tian's private estate. It was also the resting place of his mother and sister. Other than Tian K, she was the first person allowed to pay respects there. For the first time, Chu Mian wondered if bringing Chu Xing here had gone too far. Meanwhile, Chu Xing, having received the invitation, boasted confidently, "This time I'll definitely win Tian K over." When the servants reported her arrival, the secretariat had even confirmed the schedule. Tian K smashed his teacup in fury. "Scheming against me? Fine, let's see how far you can play this game." He stormed out, seizing Chu Xing's wrist and lifting her into his arms. Chu Xing's heart leapt with joy. Men are all the same, aren't they? Unfortunately, Chu Mian witnessed the entire scene. Her chest tightened. This isn't the outcome I wanted. Am I actually paving the way for her? But the next moment, Tian K flung Chu Xing onto the sofa with disgust. "Pathetic," he spat, turning to leave. Chu Xing was dumbfounded. Just a moment ago he had carried her, and now he loathed her. Li Tian K offered no explanation, merely ordering the servants to lock her in a dark room. Then, with a storm on his face, he went looking for Chu Mian. But upon seeing her fast asleep, half his rage melted away. Still, he couldn't let it go so easily that he decided to punish her. 5 days of silence. Already 3 days had passed with him ignoring her, and the maids pitied her dejected look. To cheer her up, they took her grocery shopping. By sheer misfortune, they ran into Chu Xing, dressed up as a flashy internet celebrity. To make others believe she had latched onto Li Tian's thigh, Chu Xing forced herself to splurge recklessly, planning to flaunt it all in front of Chu Mian. But just as she approached, a gun was pressed to her head. Panicked, she blurted, "I'm Li Tian's woman." The thug sneered, "Perfect, that you're exactly who we came for." Terrified, Chu Xing instantly shifted blame, pointing at Chu Mian. Chu Mian rushed to silence her, but the captors mistook her for an accomplice and dragged her along as well. The group was hauled to an abandoned factory. The leader ordered his men to watch Chu Xing while he dealt with the others. As he moved to attack one of the maids, Chu Mian drove her knee hard into him, leaving him coughing blood and collapsing. She then rammed another thug, forcing his blade to slice open the ropes binding her wrists. Who would have thought this seemingly delicate girl had such terrifying combat ability? Even the maid who usually cared for her was stunned. Was this really the same helpless young miss? Intrigued, the gang leader smirked. "Interesting. Fight me." Chu Mian met his gaze coldly. "Find out if I win, you'll take me to your boss." The thug swung a heavy punch at her, but she slipped aside with ease. With a sharp elbow to the thug's side, Chu Mian disarmed him and seized his weapon. Realizing he was outmatched, the thug tried to call reinforcements, only to freeze as Chu Mian pressed the blade to his throat. "Take me to your boss," she ordered coldly. Meanwhile, Li Tian K had received word of her kidnapping. At first, he intended to let her suffer a little as punishment. But worry gnawed at him and he set out for the factory himself. Just as the thug was about to lead Chu Mian inside, news arrived. Li Tian K was here. The boss ordered that she be held back while he entertained the guest. Curious, Chu Mian demanded a look. The thug reluctantly agreed, warning her not to make trouble. From a distance she caught sight of him. Li De. Her chest tightened, so he really came to save Chu Xing. What a sentimental fool. Inside, Li Tian K faced an old man across the table. A contract lay between them. Li Tian's gaze hardened. Such a large appetite. What do you expect in return? The old man sneered, waving his hand. Moments later, Chu Xing was dragged out and thrown at Li Tian's feet. Frowning, Li Tian K scanned the area. Chu Mian was nowhere in sight. "Where's the other one?" he demanded. Misinterpreting his intent, the old man smirked and drew a finger across his throat in a chilling gesture. Li Tian pulled out a pen and hurled it straight at the old man, snarling, "The one I wouldn't even dare touch, and you thought you could slice her throat?" The old man died without ever realizing who Li Tian K meant. His men, enraged, grabbed their weapons and charged. Meanwhile, Chu Mian struck down the thug beside her and dragged the maid to escape. Li Tian K was locked in a brutal fight with the rest. "Boss, retreat first," his men shouted. He snapped back coldly. "Leave her corpse behind, over my dead body." Chu Mian fled into a warehouse, ears sharp as she caught the sound of footsteps within. Her guard shot up instantly. The door creaked open. In the darkness, she and the intruder leveled their guns at each other. Their eyes met, and in the next second, Li Tian K lunged forward, pulling her into a crushing embrace. "Little thing, I knew you wouldn't die so easily." Without warning, he sank his teeth into her neck, then swept her into his arms. "Let's go, Miss Chu Mian." At that moment, Chu Mian finally understood. He had known her identity all along. With the entire building brought under control, Li Tian K carried her out into the open. Chu Xing rushed forward to cling onto him, only to be kicked aside. Though she hadn't clearly seen the woman in his arms, the sight of that dress told her everything. Yet she still refused to accept the truth. With her identity exposed, Chu Mian was at a loss for words. Li Tian K calmly dialed Meng Shu. "Blow up the building. Let the lady enjoy some fireworks." The explosion lit up the night sky, wild and domineering. Chu Mian finally broke her silence. "At the night market, you already knew, didn't you?" "Smart," Li Tian K replied casually. "I was just curious. How long did you plan on playing this game?" He carried her straight back to the estate, striding into the hot spring hall, and without hesitation lifted her skirt. Chu Mian's heart jolted. She hurried to stop him, but Tian K only glanced at her coolly. "Take it off yourself." Flustered, she tried to steer the conversation. "Shouldn't we talk first?" But he ignored her, pulling her into his arms and tossing her into the steaming pool. "Don't be ungrateful. This medicinal spring was my mother's creation. Others would kill for the chance to soak in it." Chu Mian froze, then muttered a faint, "Thanks." At that, Tian K smiled faintly for the first time in days. "Now, let's talk." Chu Mian took a breath. "I was once the adopted daughter of Councilman Chu Jingming, that he was so superstitious, he only raised me to ward off misfortune for his real daughter, Chu Xing. At 18, Chu Jingming schemed to make her take the death calamity meant for Chu Xing. He fabricated claims of her mental illness and cast her into the slums. Later, it was you who brought me out," Chu Mian said quietly. "I want revenge that I shouldn't have hidden it from you, but if you'd known, I feared you'd lash out in anger for being deceived." With those words, she let out a long, weary sigh. Though Tian K now knew her past, what truly gnawed at him were her ties to Feng Shenjun and Xiaoran. Chu Mian explained, "Feng Shenjun was just someone I once knew. He's Chu Xing's boyfriend. As for Xiaoran, I saved him on the island that he promised to repay me someday." Tian K tilted her chin upward, his voice edged with frost. "That's all?" He rose to his feet, eyes narrowing. "Good that I don't believe you dare lie to me." After soaking in the spring for half an hour, Chu Mian saw him seemingly asleep and quietly slipped out to change her clothes. But Tian K wasn't asleep at all. He was feigning it. Every moment of her changing fell under his gaze. Once dressed, Chu Mian approached and softly bid him farewell. Hearing her say she was leaving, his brow furrowed deeply. Chu Mian murmured, "I'm just a substitute for your dead sister, that I shouldn't linger any longer." His reply was cold, almost detached. "And where will you go?" Chu Mian answered, "I'll stay in Yi country for now. When I get the chance, I'll repay you for taking me off Feng Island." When the stepmother heard the news, she thought Tian K had finally come to his senses. She tried to use the chance to bridge Chu Xing with him, only to be shut out at the gates. But Tian K had no time for them. All his thoughts were consumed by the woman he brought back, the one now preparing to leave, that he had already fallen for her. Watching his lonely figure, Chu Mian noticed nothing unusual. She pulled on her hat, ready to pack her things and go. Just as they were about to part, Tian K couldn't restrain himself, that he ordered coldly, "Seal the estate. Not even a mosquito leaves." He even threatened her with the maids. "If you dare run, I'll bury them both, turn them into flower soil." Chu Mian's face darkened. "What are you doing, Mr. Li? Still pretending? That night at the market, I was in the trunk. Didn't you hear everything?" Tian's gaze sharpened. "You stood under my nose and took that award, and I let it slide. You were kidnapped and I went myself to save you. Little thing, I've spoiled you. Don't you think it's time for some return?" Chu Mian asked coldly, "What do you want? My heart or my body?" He smirked. "Try giving me only one." Then he ordered his men to keep an eye on her. That night, Chu Mian confronted him. "Mr. Li, if I'm to be your canary, how much freedom do I truly have?" Tian K yanked her into his arms, his voice a low growl. "Isn't having me as your shield enough, and you still dare demand more?" For the independent Chu Mian, relationships between men and women were never reliable. What she truly needed was a new identity, and a chance to return to university. But Tian K dismissed it lightly. "If you want to study, I can hire private tutors." Yet Chu Mian refused to be caged. What she longed for was real freedom. Just as she was about to argue, Tian K suddenly pressed a kiss to her lips. "Any other requests?" he murmured. The kiss left her mind blank, wiping away every word she meant to say. When he leaned in to take things further, she blurted, "Actually, I'm on my period." Tian K cursed under his breath. "Chu Mian, is there anyone on earth more of a buzzkill than you?" She feigned innocence. "That's not exactly something I can control." But Tian K wasn't ready to let her go. He scooped her up and carried her straight to the bedroom. Using her as his pillow, he pinned her down and slept until she finally whispered, "I'm hungry." Only then did the two head to the dining hall. Meanwhile, Meng Shu had finished arranging her new identity. The name remained Xie Xianghua, and as for her academic courses, those would be hers to decide. After surviving 3 years in the slums, Chumyeon's greatest dream was to rebuild it into a proper city. But in a nation ruled by elitism, those without power or backing weren't deemed worthy of resources. Learning this left her quietly dejected. Meng Shu suggested she study fine arts. After all, she was already gifted in oil painting. Chumyeon thought it over and agreed. You can enroll today, Meng Shu informed her. After finishing her meal, she was eager to see the school for herself. Yet Tian K pulled her into his arms, voice domineering. If you're going to school, here are my rules. The driver takes you every day. Skip class or leave early if you want, but no staying out late and no friends. Chumyeon had never heard demands so outrageous. Before she could protest, he pressed a hickey onto her neck. Only then did he let her go. Covering her neck, Chumyeon muttered inwardly, "Too dangerous. This control freak that I'll have to leave him one day." Her very first day at school, every guy on campus turned to stare. With a flick of her hair, the mark on her neck came into view, instantly making the would-be admirers sigh in disappointment. Watching Chumyeon draw the crowd's attention, Chu Xing seethed with jealousy. Ever since childhood, her sister had stolen the spotlight, and even now she couldn't escape it. She stormed forward, shouting angrily, "What right do you have to be here in school?" Chumyeon shot back coolly, "So, just because Chu Xing once forced me to kneel and apologize, I don't deserve an education?" The crowd buzzed at her words. An influential councilman's daughter making her foster sister kneel. Unbelievable. Chu Xing's best friend, Qian Nanan, jumped in to defend her. "She's Li Tiang's girlfriend now. How dare you bully her?" Chumyeon sneered. "Funny. I heard Li Tiang blew up an entire den just to save you." Chu Xing kept a straight face, feigning innocence. "I wasn't trying to brag." A teacher arrived in time to end the quarrel, but Chu Xing wasn't about to let it go. She whispered with Qian Nanan, plotting to humiliate Chumyeon. Right after class, Qian Nanan texted her loyal lapdog Yiqing. The plan: follow Chumyeon to the restroom and dump a bucket of ice water over her head. Yiqing thought it was a low move, but as a die-hard simp he still agreed. As soon as Yiqing stepped into the girls' restroom with the bucket, Chumyeon slammed the door shut behind him. When he realized the target was her, his face went pale. "Oh hell, why is it you, Auntie Chu?" Memories of the bamboo skewer piercing his hand made him shudder. He stammered a greeting and tried to bolt. But Chumyeon wasn't one to let grudges slide. She stopped him cold with a sharp command. Outside, Qian Nanan grew impatient from the silence and decided to check inside. The moment she stepped in, Yiqing accidentally dumped the entire bucket of ice water over her head. Hearing the shriek, Chu Xing rushed over, just in time to see her best friend drenched. While Chumyeon walked out untouched, she jabbed a finger at her angrily. "You bullied her, didn't you?" Chumyeon seized her finger, bent it back with a snap and sneered. "Enjoy your spotlight while it lasts. Soon enough you won't be laughing anymore." Yet the moment Chu Xing saw her boyfriend Feng Shinjun, her tough facade crumbled into a pitiful act. Feng Shinjun immediately stepped in front of her. The ridiculous part: he thought Chumyeon was targeting Chu Xing just to fight over him. At that moment, Qian Nanan stormed over, shrieking, "Chumyeon, you bitch!" Fearing the truth might slip out, Chu Xing quickly dragged Qian Nanan away to change her clothes. Chumyeon took the chance to lean toward Feng Shinjun. "Do you like green? I'll send you a gift someday. What do you prefer, green tea or a green hat?" With that, she strode off, leaving him standing there dumbfounded. When Chu Xing returned after settling Qian Nanan, she feigned tears and said, "I just asked her name and she accused me of two-timing." Feng Shinjun had heard some gossip, but with Chu Xing's teary eyes he chose to believe her anyway. Watching from the side, Yiqing the simp was struck dumb. So this is it. Being a simp gets you nothing in the end. One night, Chumyeon felt as if something was crushing her chest in her sleep. She woke to find Tian K lying right on top of her. Seeing her awake, he only tightened his embrace, a sly grin tugging at his lips. Chumyeon sighed helplessly and let him hold her until he drifted back to sleep. All of a sudden, Tian K jolted upright, gasping for air. Startled, Chumyeon asked what was wrong. But instead of answering, he leaned down and pressed a long kiss to her lips, only letting go after what felt like forever. He then rose and sat on the sofa, fiddling with a matchstick in his fingers. Chumyeon sat up as well, watching him curiously. Catching her gaze, Tian K smirked. "What are you looking at?" she replied calmly, "The way you light matches. It's kind of seductive." Amused, he struck another match, deliberately mimicking the same languid motion as before. "And what's that supposed to mean?" she asked. Tian K's lips curled into a wicked smile. "It means I'm coaxing my little thing." Chu Mian fumed inwardly. "Little thing. Your whole family's little things." Of course, those words stayed in her heart. She didn't dare say them aloud. Instead, she shifted the topic, softly asking if he'd had a nightmare. He admitted he'd dreamed once more of his sister's suicide. Chu Mian, unsure how to comfort him, offered, "Maybe I could share a smoke with you?" Tian K pulled her into his arms with a mocking chuckle. "You're not my brother. What do you need a cigarette for? If it's a taste you want, I can give you one." With that, he sealed her lips with another kiss. This man who kissed her at every turn left Chu Mian helpless and exasperated. Then Tian K told her he would be abroad for a week. The moment she heard it, her eyes lit up. He caught her reaction instantly, his tone cold. "Don't even think of running. I don't want to have to deal with you." The next morning, before leaving, he handed her a phone. "While I'm away, you'll call me 3 times a day." Chu Mian dared not refuse, only asking cautiously, "Wouldn't that interrupt your work?" Tian K's gaze sharpened. "Whether I answer or not is my business, but if you don't call, that's your problem." Chu Mian had no words left. Just as she was about to head to school, he yanked her back and branded another hickey onto her neck. Tian K, smug after his little victory, teased, "Too much trouble. Maybe I should just have my name tattooed on you." In Chu Mian's mind, 1,000 alpacas stampeded in outrage. Back at school, Chu Mian kept to the routine, calling him at the exact times every day. And no matter if he was in a meeting or buried in work, the moment he saw her name flash on the screen, Tian K would drop everything to answer. Even his assistant Meng Shu sighed inwardly. Men in love are terrifying. Though Tian K longed for her calls, he always pretended to be aloof, cutting the conversation short with, "I'm busy. You can hang up." Yet once the call ended, he stared at his phone, wishing she would dial again. He even ordered Meng Shu to log the exact times of her calls. Meng Shu grumbled inwardly, "It's always 3 times a day, never more. What's there to log?" That very day, her foster father Chu Jingming came to the school to give a speech. On stage, he looked like a benevolent, respected statesman, but beneath the surface, he was rotten to the core. And Chu Mian's goal was clear: to strip away his mask and ruin him publicly. As the conference began, Chu Jingming stood at the podium, spouting lofty ideals. The clueless audience applauded enthusiastically. The host then followed the script, asking, "Any students with questions?" A setup for the planted shills. To everyone's surprise, Chu Mian suddenly rose with the microphone in hand. Chu Jingming's face darkened. He signaled for staff to cut her mic, planning to brush her off. But Chu Mian had anticipated it. She pulled out a megaphone and fired her question. He feigned composure, muttering that her voice was too soft to hear. Chu Mian strode straight onto the stage, standing beside him. "How about now? Can you hear me clearly?" The host tried to smooth things over. "Student, this isn't the proper way." Chu Mian raised the megaphone and declared, "I just want to ask a few questions. If you won't let me, does that mean you already planted your shills?" The crowd erupted, chanting, "Answer the question. Answer the question." Pressured by the audience, Chu Jingming had no choice but to allow it. Without hesitation, Chu Mian asked coldly, "As a qualified councilman, what qualities should one possess?" Chu Jingming forced a calm front. "First, one must have no selfish motives. Second, one must no sacrifice, serve the people wholeheartedly, and remain honest and incorruptible." No sooner had he spoken than the big screen lit up. Footage from just days ago showing Chu Jingming posing as a do-gooder selling fruit for farmers, while in reality kicking and beating them behind the scenes. The truth ignited outrage. The crowd roared, cursing him as a beast in human skin. Chu Jingming panicked and called for security. But Yi Qing had already rallied his buddies, blocking the guards. One guard slipped through, charging at the stage, only to be floored by a single sharp kick from Chu Mian. Chu Jingming tried to slip away in the chaos, but furious onlookers closed in from every side. Even with guards shielding him, he couldn't move an inch. From the crowd, Chu Xing shouted in desperation, glaring at Chu Mian on stage. "How disgusting are you, to do this to my father?" Chu Mian crouched down, her eyes cold. You've got it wrong. I'm not just coming for your father. Your fake art contest entry, your college cheating, every dirty secret of yours will come to light. Chu Jingming's mask finally shattered. He was dragged away in silver cuffs. As he was shoved into the police car, he hissed to his daughter, "Make Chu Mian confess it was slander. If she refuses, go to your mother, she'll know what to do." His gaze turned vicious. "And if all else fails, kill her. Only when she's gone can our family survive." Watching him hauled off, Chu Mian felt a fierce satisfaction. At last, her long-awaited revenge had struck true. Just then Yiqing ran up excitedly. "Sister Xianghua, you're too badass." Chu Mian handed him a bank card as payment for him and his buddies. Yiqing waved it off immediately, but Chu Mian told him calmly, "I'll be leaving soon. I don't want to owe anyone favors." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving Yiqing scratching his head in confusion. Not long after, her foster mother and Chu Xing cornered her, begging her to let Chu Jingming off the hook, to admit the incriminating video was fake. Chu Mian flatly refused. Her voice was ice cold. "When I was a child, he beat and cursed me at will. And you, Chu Xing, you bullied me, locked me in a dark room and forced me to face off with a cobra. Compared to that, what happened today is nothing." Her foster mother, seeing her unmoved, pulled out a bottle of pills. "If you won't agree, I'll take Chu Xing with me, we'll die together." Chu Mian sneered. "Go ahead. Your death has nothing to do with me." Realizing threats wouldn't work, her foster mother switched to guilt-tripping. "Xiao Mian, after everything we did to raise you, is this how you repay us?" Chu Mian's anger flared. "When you tossed me away like garbage into the slums, did you ever think about your so-called kindness?" But her foster mother showed no shame, insisting instead, "The milk you drank as a baby, I made it myself. The clothes on your back, I bought them with my own hands." Chu Mian slammed her palm on the table, eyes blazing. "Enough. Chu Jingming tried to use me as a scapegoat, but you're the one who cut the deepest. You kill with guilt." Seeing Chu Mian unmoved, her foster mother snapped coldly, "Fine, leave then. All those years raising you wasted." Chu Mian's eyes burned with fury. "So this is what you call kindness? Fine. I'll repay it." She grabbed the vial of poison from the table and downed it in one gulp. Debt cleared. "From this moment on, I have nothing to do with the Chu family." With that, she turned and walked away. But moments later, blood trickled from the corner of her lips. Just then her phone rang. It was Tian K. Trembling, she had no choice but to ask for help. Tian K rushed over in a panic, scooping her into his arms. "Chu Mian, don't you dare die on me." He drove her straight to the hospital, where doctors fought through the night to save her life. The moment she woke, his voice thundered in anger. "Impressive. You've learned how to drink poison now." Though she resented the man before her, she still whispered her gratitude. "If not for you, I'd be gone. I thought I had some resistance to poison, but it hit faster than I expected." Curiously, Tian K pressed her. Chu Mian explained flatly, "As a child, the Chu family forced all kinds of drugs on me. In the slums, I survived 3 years eating things laced with poison." His brows furrowed deeply at her words. "If I hadn't been here, you'd really be dead." She murmured, "Thank you. I honestly don't know how to repay you." Tian K suddenly leaned in close, eyes dark. "Repay me? Isn't your idea of repayment running away from me every chance you get?" Just as Chu Mian tried to argue, Tian K crushed her words with a forceful kiss. His voice was low and mocking. "You failed to escape yesterday. Today you won't get the chance." From the maids, she learned that Tian K had stayed up all night by her side, and had her foster mother captured and tortured half to death. Any faint warmth she had begun to feel for him was instantly doused by his ruthless methods. He had promised to dine with her, yet while he enjoyed steak and lavish dishes, her stomach just flushed, was left with nothing but plain porridge. That day, word spread of several conglomerates testing the waters, probing whether Tian K would protect Chu Jingming. In front of her, he deliberately claimed he would, trying to force her to beg him. But Chu Mian's spine was steel. She only said coldly, "It's fine. We'll deal with him next time." When she refused to yield, he quietly set down a bowl of snow pear syrup he had cooked himself. Rising, he told his assistant, "Any conglomerate that dares back the Chu family, wipe them out." Chu Mian caught every word, realizing he was shielding her, and murmured a soft thank you. But Tian K only smirked. Don't thank me. I'll collect the payment later. Meanwhile, the Chu family collapsed completely. Mother and daughter became like rats in the street, despised everywhere they went. The business partners they once flaunted scrambled to erase all traces of association, retrieving every shred of evidence that tied them together. Even the maids they had once abused grew bold, stripping the house of valuables as payment for years of mistreatment. Just as mother and daughter were drowning in despair, Feng Shui received a call. The voice on the other end claimed to be Chu Mian's enemy. If she killed Chu Mian, they'd secure Chu Jingming's release. Desperate, Feng Shui agreed. 2 days later, Chu Mian was discharged from the hospital. To welcome her back, Aunt Fong, the maid who had cared for her, made a bowl of sweet rice dumplings. None of them knew it would be the last meal Chu Mian would ever eat from her hands. As they stepped out of the hospital, waiting for a car by the roadside, Feng Shui's vehicle came hurtling toward Chu Mian. In that split second, Aunt Fong shoved Chu Mian out of the way, taking the full impact herself. Blood pooled beneath her body. Feng Shui, realizing she'd struck the wrong person, showed no remorse and even tried to turn the car to run Chu Mian down again. Security guards rushed over, forcing her to stop. Chu Mian shouted, "Don't chase her, save her first." Desperation in her voice, she urged them to rush Aunt Fong to the ER. Hours of emergency treatment proved futile. Aunt Fong was gone. One maid wept uncontrollably, but Chu Mian stood there like stone, expressionless. The maid sobbed, "Miss, it's okay to cry. Don't hold it in." Chu Mian's voice was flat. "I'm not holding it in. I just can't cry. Next time, don't ever do something this foolish again. I won't shed tears for it." Back home, she sat without a flicker of emotion, eating the last bowl of dumplings Aunt Fong had cooked for her. When Tian K returned and heard what had happened, rage boiled inside him. He slapped the bowl from her hands. "Stop eating, you just got out of the hospital." But Chu Mian didn't seem to hear. She crouched down, picked up the dumplings from the floor and silently put them into her mouth, one by one. Tian K gripped Chu Mian's wrist hard, his voice cold. "So a maid died. If it bothers you, I'll get your revenge." Chu Mian snapped, fury breaking through. "What do you mean just a maid? Her vengeance is mine to take, not yours. Bring Fong Ma's body back. I'll see to her funeral myself." Tian K didn't argue. Instead, he pulled her into his arms and ordered his assistant to seal the leftover dumplings and place them in a wooden box for her to keep. Overwhelmed by grief, Chu Mian nearly gagged. Tian's eyes darkened. "There's a way to make you forget the pain. Be with me." Though every fiber of her resisted, she remembered he had saved her life. Treating it as repayment, she nodded. He carried her straight to the bed. Later, Chu Mian learned that the Feng family had taken in Feng Shui and her daughter. With Feng Xinjun enjoying the grandmother's favor, it was clear he was the one who convinced her to shelter them. Tian's gaze turned murderous at how well she seemed to know Feng Xinjun. Chu Mian hurried to explain, "Anyone siding with the Chu family is my enemy." Only then did he let go of his anger. Meanwhile, Feng Shui, desperate for protection, pushed her daughter to propose marriage to her backup man, Feng Xinjun. The public sneered, saying she could never be worthy of the Feng heir. To ensure the wedding went through, Chu Xing played her cards, acting pitiful, shedding tears, pretending to be innocent. As always, Feng Xinjun couldn't bear to see a woman cry. In the end, he gave in. Chu Xing's triumphant smile said it all. She believed she had him under her thumb. But at the very moment of the wedding, Feng Xinjun's heart was elsewhere, thinking of another woman. Just as Feng Xinjun was about to utter the words, "I do," Chu Mian appeared, carrying a coffin, crashing the wedding. Panic flashed across Chu Xing's face. She rushed to the Feng matriarch, crying that the intruder was Feng Xinjun's old flame, who used to bully her back in school. The old lady immediately lashed out at Chu Mian, and Feng Xinjun too accused her of going too far. But Chu Mian had no interest in trading words. Her goal was clear: take Feng Shui and Chu Xing away. Chu Xing tried to play the victim, clinging to the matriarch, then huffed that she wouldn't marry after all. But Feng Xinjun pulled her into his arms, voice hard. "This wedding will happen. No one can stop it." The matriarch ordered the guards to seize Chu Mian, but the men she brought were towering, disciplined, and the Feng family's guards could do nothing. Feng Xinjun, still convinced she had come to sabotage the wedding, snapped, "Wake up. There's no chance between us." In a flash, Chu Mian pressed a blade to his throat. Her voice was ice. "Today Chu Xing dies. If you want to play the hero, I'll grant your wish." With that, she cut across his neck, drawing blood. The Feng matriarch nearly collapsed, shrieking for all the guards to attack. But Feng Xinjun raised a hand, stopping them. He locked eyes with Chu Mian, unflinching. "Didn't you say you'd kill me? Do it." At that moment, her foster mother Feng Shui suddenly rushed forward, clutching Chu Mian. "Xiaomian, for the sake of the 18 years I raised you." Before she could finish, Chu Mian shoved her away. "That was my stupidity. You never took me in out of kindness. You only kept me to take your daughter's misfortune in her place." She turned, eyes like ice, and stared at Feng Xinjun. "If I had driven the blade through you just now, would you have thought it an unfair death?" His face went pale. He knew it wouldn't have been unfair at all. Years ago, when her adoptive father sold Chu Mian to an old man, she had come to him in desperation. Instead of saving her, he betrayed her. Back then, his heart truly belonged to Chu Mian. But when Chu Xing and her father dumped her in the slums and told the world she had risen to glory and would never return, only then did he turn to Chu Xing. Now realizing the truth, Feng Xinjun froze where he stood. He had been deceived for 3 long years. Chu Xing rushed to explain, but he struck her across the face, roaring, "Why did you lie to me?" The two erupted into a heated quarrel. But Chu Mian wasn't here to listen to their mess. Her voice cut cold. "Your mother and daughter killed Feng Ma. How are we settling this debt?" Feng Shui still refused to admit it, insisting she wasn't the one behind the wheel that day. Chu Mian sneered, yanking her by the hair and forcing her down before the maid's coffin. "Swear it wasn't you," she spat, her voice laced with venom. Feng Shui broke, collapsing to her knees. "I'll give you all of the Chu family's assets. Please just take them." But Chu Mian wanted no money, she wanted a life for a life. Just then, Chu Xing rushed forward to block her, crying, "Murder is against the law." Chu Mian ignored her completely, gesturing for her guards to drag Chu Xing aside. Blade in hand, she advanced on Feng Shui. Just as the knife's tip neared her throat, Chu Xing broke down and screamed, "I'll turn myself in." Chu Mian froze, then ordered her men to haul Feng Shui away, together with the maid's coffin, to face justice. Chu Xing wept pitifully, but her mouth still spat venom at Chu Mian. Chu Mian lifted her chin, voice like ice. "I promised to spare your life. I never said how I'd spare it." With that, she signaled for Chu Xing to be taken away. Chu Xing turned desperately to Feng Xinjun, but Chu Mian's sharp glare was enough to paralyze him. He didn't dare take a step. She had crashed the Feng family wedding and caused an uproar, yet no one dared retaliate. Chu Mian knew well. Her shield was none other than Tian K. Still, when Tian K learned of her past entanglement with Feng Xinjun, his jealousy burned through every word he spoke. Chu Mian tried to soothe him softly. "There's nothing between us now, and there never will be." Tian K pulled her into his arms, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Amian, the way you're so ruthless. I can't help but love it." With her revenge complete, Chu Mian should have been plotting to escape this control freak. Yet when Xiaoran offered to take her away and even prepared a villa for her, she shook her head. She wasn't leaving. Moved by his recent care, she chose to stay for now. But in Li Tiang's mind, her vengeance was done. Leaving him was only a matter of time. So he ordered Meng Shu to have men shadow her. If she shows the slightest sign of running, seize her immediately. He even demanded a sturdy wheelchair. If she dares try again, break her legs. To leave him in broad daylight, Chu Mian went to the principal, insisting on adding law as a second major. Though he tried to dissuade her, she stood firm. As she hauled a suitcase of books home, she ran into her ex, Feng Xinjun, who wanted to talk. She wanted no entanglement, but he grabbed her arm and refused to let her go. And of course, this was the exact moment Tian K appeared. Slamming the gas pedal, his car barreling straight toward them. Chu Mian dodged at the last second. He stopped the car in front of them, eyes sharp with jealousy, voice dripping with mockery. Well, planning to elope, are we?" Chu Mian's head filled with question marks. What the hell was wrong with this man now? Tian sneered. "Weren't you holding his hand so tightly just now?" Why stop? Chu Mian instantly pulled away from Feng Shenjun, snapping coldly that they weren't even close. Tian K slammed the gas, swerving the car straight at Feng Shenjun, testing if she'd care. Feng Shenjun staggered back in terror, falling hard to the ground. Already fuming from being falsely accused, Chu Mian now faced Li Tian's dark glare. Mian, I'm jealous. I'm angry. Tell me, what should I do? To stop him from making things worse, Chu Mian hurled her suitcase into his car and climbed in herself. Just as she was about to leave, Feng Shenjun called after her, "You're really getting in his car?" She shot him a frosty glance. "We've got nothing between us. Don't come looking for me again." The car sped off. Back home, Li Tian K shoved her into a wheelchair, his voice like ice. "I spoil you so much and you dare try to elope with another man?" Chu Mian tried to explain, but he refused to listen. Instead, he pulled out a bone-crushing shackle and locked it onto her knees. She still struggled to reason with him, but blinded by jealousy, he was convinced she wanted to run away with Feng Shenjun. With a sudden twist, he tightened the shackle. Pain tore across her face. Even through the agony, she forced herself to stay calm and ordered Meng Shu to open her suitcase. When Li Tian K saw the suitcase packed only with books, he realized he had wronged her. Instantly, he lashed out at Meng Shu. "What kind of work is this? Reporting without checking the facts first." He hurriedly unlocked the bone-crushing shackle and offered her an apology. But Chu Mian didn't accept it. Her tone was icy, and with pain in her knees, she staggered upstairs. To coax her, Li Tian K brought out a jar of priceless gemstones, yet Chu Mian still refused to be moved. She coldly told him she wanted to shower and asked him to leave, struggling to her feet. Instead, Li Tian K slammed his palm against the wall beside her, caging her in. "Why are you so damn hard to please?" His voice dropped lower, darker. "What if I twist the shackle on your knee first, then make it up to you afterward?" Dragging her into the living room, he shoved the shackle into her hands. "The way I treated you just now, go ahead, do it back to me." Chu Mian scoffed and shook her head. "If I really crippled you, the next second you'd be dumped in a mass grave." Li Tian K tilted her chin, eyes burning with both danger and desire. "Doesn't matter. Whatever you do to me, I'll take it, willingly."